Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Starseed Immersion podcast. Today, I have the wonderful, beautiful Catherine O'Connor with me today, and I'm so honored to introduce Catherine to you. She is a sacred architect and a channel of infinite knowledge and divine love magic. She works with sensitives, creators, healers, leaders, and change makers to amplify their mastery, activate their authentic voice, and create nourishing environments that dissolve separation and empower multidimensional self expression. With a background in psychotherapeutic understanding and a refined connection to Toth, she integrates quantum healing and soul remembrance to awaken the inner God and goddess in everyone. I'm so honored to have you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And to start off, I would love to hear a little bit about your, I guess, initiation into this field, because we're all curious. We all want to know, how did you start and how did you get here?
Oh, okay. So I weaved my way here to this point in time. In retrospect, I think I was probably about 16 when my written light language switched on, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't really, and then I just kind of, wound my way through my life. And on the way, opened myself to quite a lot of therapeutic modalities, very earth-based modalities, ones working very much with the physical body, the emotional body, the mind, and I guess to a large degree the soul, but I wouldn't have called it that at the time. And in that process, I kind of did a lot of personal healing and got to a point where I realized that the personal healing I had done with everything that I was kind of working with. And also I was gifting, I was also working in the community at the time as well, in some form or other through all of this process. I realized that there was something missing. And then, then I was gifted an opportunity really to go deeper into what it was that I hadn't yet really acknowledged in myself, I guess, which was my gift to channel and my connection to source consciousness at a much deeper level, my connection to Toth and to other beings of light, and to the kind of the higher planes of consciousness, which I was already tapping into, but not at such a conscious level. And so it was around 2017 that I met some beautiful, beautiful mentors, Jenny Rama Hoffman being one of those, who then kind of guided me into what I do now, guided me, initiated me, really kind of had my back. And with that guidance and the activations that they provided, I spent a lot of time studying, which is natural for me. It is what I do. I like to go deep. So I spent a lot of time in meditation with Toth and many other guides, continued my own personal journey, and came out the other side realizing that I was wanting to gift and really start a business, and bring this work that I now do forward. And that really became my passion, and it's always been my passion. I mean, have help it kind of people being authentic has been kind of what's led me through my entire life. Um, yeah, and so yeah, that's how I came. That's kind of the short story of how I came to be here.
Wow. And I'm
Yeah.
very curious because how did you know that Toth was like a main source of connection for you versus like all the other dimensional beings that you've connected with at that time?
It's a really good question, and in a way, I don't think I did. I think it was more, the divine leading me, and that's what stepped into my path. In retrospect, again, Toth has been with me all my life. So the first individual I channeled, so my light language switched on, my verbal light language switched on really quickly. And so the first being of light that I channeled, they came through and spoke light language, and I was already new to the field, and I was a bit frightened by it, and kind of just went, no, I kind of knew what was going on, but I kind of didn't trust it enough. And so then I did have other beings of light that kind of stepped in, and I worked with, and I communicated with. So it was very natural for me to do it. But really, it was working with, again, Daniel Rama Hoffman, who kind of formally initiated me into the connection I have with Toth. So it was more that the divine guided me to exactly the right person and the right place and space for me to kind of access Toth, as opposed to me going, which one of these am I supposed to channel?
Oh, yes, it did answer my question. Can you share a little bit, if it's not too personal, some of the things that you connected with Toph about during your time of study and meditating with him?
Yes, I really followed what interested me. And so again, I think there was one meditation activation that Danielle provided where we went into the library, the Sacred Architecture Library with Toth, and he opened up some scrolls, and it was, we were invited to go back as often as we wanted. So it really nourished me being there. It really piqued my curiosity. I didn't understand it. Like I didn't know at that stage what really any of this was about particularly. It was more just intuitively, I was curious and drawn there, like, so drawn there. So that's where I went a lot initially, like probably every day I would spend time in that library with Toth, downloading scrolls, reading scrolls, really getting to know that particular library. And I mean, there's so much. I mean, really, this is the field of Akasha. And there is so much information in the field of Akasha that we're yet to tap into. And some of those, what they're showing me at the moment is some of those Akashic records, what we call Akashic records, or that field of Akasha is also written or embodied in the Earth star, in other dimensions within the Earth star. And then when we tap into those other dimensions in the Earth star, we can tap into what we might feel like is a physical location of, say, a scroll, which it is, and it's also existing in another dimension. So we can access it without digging it up, so to speak, through this kind of multidimensional awareness that we're developing within ourselves and embodying. So in essence, when I was going into the library, and this is really comes, very much in alignment with what the summit is about, is I was tapping into a dimension within the field of Akasha. And yes, I was led there, but that's essentially what was happening. So that was opening up my multidimensional awareness and also my mastery in entering into the different dimensions or fields within Akasha that exist. So there was a lot going on in that process. And really, those who are listening, if any of this is sparking, what I would say is I would encourage you to follow those breadcrumbs and know that even if you don't kind of quite understand, as I didn't, what you're doing or where you're going, like know that those breadcrumbs will eventually kind of create this beautiful picture. So it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. You get one piece and you get another, and then all of a sudden, without realizing it almost, the whole picture fills out. And so also what's happening in the field for your listeners is, or for those of you who are listening, is that it's a bit like there's like it's just a very slight field that's opening up for you to start to kind of open your mind to the possibility of the dimensional realities in which you reside and that which you can explore or be more open to. And what's most challenging in this environment is that the mental mind, the emotional body, the physical body, the kind of life that you lead that is often governed by those experiences becomes can feel like it becomes a bit of a lead weight or a trap. And so when you start to open up to these other dimensions, what can happen, and this is why it's a very slight opening for your listeners, or those of you who are listening, and for others of you who are listening who may be further down have kind of opened to this already, to be a bigger opening, is that the mind can kind of almost block, or the physical emotional body, because it's so used to being the kind of the navigating compass, that it can almost block or step in the way of opening to these other dimensional spaces. And really what the guides are saying or Toth is saying, is one of the best ways to navigate that is to find ways to relax, find ways to relax your nervous system, whether it's through walking in nature, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through breath work, whether it's through yoga, whether it's through, there are many, many ways of down-regulating the nervous system. And so to down-regulate the nervous system and come into a state of relaxed awareness is really going to support your mind and your feelings to soften enough to be able to open to these dimensional realities in which you are existing, where you are playing out. Yeah. So that's quite a big download. And there's probably more. I mean, there is more, but we'll pause there, I think.
I did feel into that, and it felt very expansive, but also very grounded, because we can go into a state where we are connecting with those states and then feel ungrounded and feel that we're kind of losing the the nervous system panics, because it's like it feels like you're losing your sense of self and safety here. And that's my experience this year. Like earlier this year, I had this like huge expansion of consciousness, and then I panicked. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I seeing? What am I experiencing? And almost having this dissolving sense of identity and what my ego was attached to and what I thought life was supposed to be, right? Was dissolving in front of me. And there was nothing I could do except for let go. And part of that letting go of surrendering was I gave it to spirit, and I just said to spirit, you will show me when it's time to take that next step. And in the meantime, I was just guided to like create art, relax, play, create art. And of course, like with not a lot of awareness, because I feel like when we are shifting in consciousness, we don't connect with the frequency until we're ready to connect with it, right? And so when I was going through it, I was like, what is happening? And not feeling like I had that kind of support. But this is also why I'm sure they were like, start a podcast and start like talking to people about this, because we are collectively going through this expansion. And there's a lot of people who are looking for this information, understanding what they're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you were guided, and the guides love that you were guided to be creative. It's one of the creativity, art, singing, dancing, movement, like when your creative kind of channel opens up and you allow your creativity to flow through without the kind of paradigm of consciousness which says creativity looks a certain way, then what you're doing is, yes, your nervous system is going to relax. Yes, you're going to become more grounded, but you're also opening to the flow of life. Opening to the life force. And that life force is going to sustain you. It's going to bring forward even more of your authentic self, even more of your truth, because you're opening to a stream of consciousness that is ultimately your stream of consciousness. And then the other thing that creativity does, just on another level or another paradigm of consciousness, it builds the etheric body. Like it really strengthens the etheric body, which again is super nourishing. We can't live in this earth star. Well, we need a really vibrant etheric body. Dimensions, the other piece of information that's really, I think, vital or can be very supportive is that we're bringing this energy, these frequencies, and we're allowing them and we're surrendering to them to embody them into our physical, mental, emotional bodies, our earth star body or temple. And that will start a transformation process within the physical body. And that process of really bringing these frequencies in is it's very grounding. Like it really brings us into the presence of who we are. That's my experience with the work, and also what the guides kind of have guided me to share at this point.
It does. It really resonates about like allowing the flow to guide you, because the ego has a lot of attachments. And I remember moving through this process, my ego has had a lot of attachments to the not self, like the things that I thought that I was supposed to be doing. And in fact, it was suppressing a lot of my creative expression and leaning more into surrender and learning how to be embodied in joy and be embodied in creativity opened up the expression of self, right? Usually, when we're very rigid and structured and very logical, it's the suppression of self. And so, being in that feminine essence of flow, it opened up the channel for more expression of self. And I did notice the synchronicity, or almost how it went hand in hand with the experience of having the spiritual expansion of consciousness, more feminine embodiment, more creative flow, and then more authentic expression of who I am.
Mm. Yeah, really, really beautiful process and so beautifully articulated. Yeah, I'm not sure we can add more to such a beautiful download around that and the creativity and the divine feminine.
Could you share with us why it's important for us to embody our cosmic self, and I guess how that connects with our journey or with our higher purpose here?
Yeah, okay. Okay. So it is a choice. Like that's the first piece. We don't have to, and that's fine. We can live a really beautiful life without opening to these dimensions. Um, However, my sense is that those who are listening are kind of feeling called to open to more of the cosmic dimensions. When you open to these cosmic dimensions, you open to an expanded sense of self. You open your bandwidth to more of who you are, more of who you truly are. Because as you reside in these cosmic dimensions as a divine being, you are also activating the kind of playing in these dimensions. And as you open your field of consciousness to these dimensions in which you are residing, you begin a process of activating at the level of the soul and at the level of the DNA, the presence, the cosmic presence that you are. And in that process, you're invited to kind of download, which is what we spoke about earlier. You're invited to download or access frequencies that are very resonant for you, that you're very familiar with. And often these dimensions support the development of high consciousness. For often these dimensions hold the keys and codes of high consciousness that you, in essence, your listeners are searching for. It's like, what I can hear in the field is like, how do I do this? How do I embody more of my authentic self? How do I access my cosmic presence? Almost like, who am I? And all of this gets resolved as you do experience these dimensions and open your awareness to them and bring these frequencies in so that they do support an inner transformation. And they do also kind of support higher streams of consciousness that are on that vibration of love. Yeah, so I think we've kind of tapped into the question and to the field of consciousness that you're asking us to open into through the question.
Um, is there a benefit to expanding consciousness beyond, I would say, like tapping into new consciousness or new frequencies that Earth hasn't received yet? And this is something that's been happening very recently for me. So it's a question that I have, but I'm sure many are curious as well. If we are connecting with beings that haven't connected with Earth before, and why, like, is there a reason for it? And how does that affect us?
Mm. When you connect with beings, this is kind of about 70% channeled. So when you connect with beings of light in light who are on higher dimensional planes who are in other dimensions or higher planes of dimensional realities, like you're connecting to the God force within you. when you connect to the God force within you through that process, you begin a journey of activating the divine within. And that process of activating the divine within is that it is the path of embodiment of your divine self or your multidimensional self. When kind of winding back to the question, when you connect to, say, galactic beings, cosmic beings, 90% of the time, you are also connecting to aspects within yourself and you see them, yeah. Or you're connecting to them, which activates aspects within yourself. In other dimensional spaces, you can be connecting to what is called soul families, so other galactic or cosmic beings that are here to support you. They're like guides. You can be connecting to races like the Arcturians, who are here to support particularly the physical embodiment of the divine within by working with the physical body. The Earth Star, there are many possibilities. These are some of the possibilities. But essentially, any connection with a galactic being that is of the light is here to support you, to activate your essence, the truth of who you are. I know personally, so I'll just step forward a little bit. I know personally that in the beginning of my journey, I worked a lot with galactic beings to do quite a lot of kind of healing. I did encounter a rogue one who I had to send on his way. And I was very early in my journey and working with galactic beings, and I didn't know he was a rogue. Fortunately, I was working with some really amazing practitioners, and I was able to find out that way. So it's not all pure love and light. Which is just like a note I would put on the side, like a footnote. So what I usually do if I'm working with any beings of light is I call in beings of light I either say the ninth dimensional higher or I say the 12th dimensional higher. So I basically filter out any that might be rogue, having had that experience.
Yes, that is so important to share. So thank you for bringing that up, that we can connect to beings that are not fully of the light and to be conscious about that.
Yeah. Yeah, but also not to be frightened of it. I often don't talk about it because I feel like there's also a lot of fear around entities and dark and shadow and all the things. And I think that the fear actually attracts them. So the point is to be aware, to be conscious, but not get overly kind of frightened by it or concerned about it or invested in its, are they of the light or are they of the dark? Otherwise, I think we end up we're moving back into duality in a way when we do that. And to recognize that even those of the dark are divine beings. They have light within them. They can't exist without it. Yeah. That's my take anyway.
Could you share an exercise that you've used to discern like how we know whether we're connecting with a being of light or one that's maybe a rogue?
Okay, so for me, it's been like through experience, I think, as much as anything else, because I have worked with some pretty powerful dark forces as well. I mean, not worked with them, but move them on. So I just know. But if you're kind of developing that capacity to know, that's why I always, okay, so here are some techniques that these are not mine. These are ones that were passed down to me that I don't really use because I'm not really a technique person.
Yeah.
Doesn't suit my personality. But here is one that was passed down to me that was passed down by someone who I really like. I would trust I really value their information. And so it is to ask 3 times, like say they come in and say, I'm Archangel Michael, to ask 3 times. Oh, no, so you don't know who they are. You ask 3 times, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And if they don't reply, then they're not of the light. And there's something about asking 3 times that means that they have to reply the truth. And then if they reply, I'm Archangel Michael, and you've asked 3 times, then you can be pretty well assured that it is. And then the other piece I would use is intuition or gut instinct or guides. Ask your guides. Call in beings of light like the Arcturians and say, please kind of scan, can you support me to scan my field? Are there any kind of rogue beings of of the light, or not of the light that are in my field that I'm unconsciously or consciously working with and I'm not aware of it. Then another technique I would use is check in with someone who is further down the path than you and ask. Just say, look, I'm just unsure. Are you willing to check for me? Yeah. And that's, I mean, as you said, like when we come together like this, part of the reason for these coming together and having these conversations is because it's not talked about. And we need these conversations to support all of us in this ascension process. And so that the information is out there and the conversations are happening. So again, it's a bit like having this conversation with you. It's reason to have a conversation with someone, ask, find out that way. It's a great way.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that. Because I was just talking about that the other day, that a lot of the conversations on the series is very positive and very empowering, but also like we haven't had conversations about how to discern and protect yourself if something of that experience happened to you. So I'm so happy that it got brought up because I was just thinking we needed to have a conversation about it.
That's amazing because it's not a topic I enjoy talking about. So obviously yeah, it was needed to be brought forward. So that's amazing. Again, beautifully synchronistic and really about your manifestation process.
Is there anything that Toph would like to share that maybe perhaps like wasn't in my awareness to ask that they feel is important for the audience to know right now?
Yes, and he's saying you're doing a beautiful job. Just keep doing it. Keep doing the questions. Essentially, that's essentially what he's saying. He's kind of touching your heart and saying, like, this is just awesome and really beautifully curated, and to really kind of acknowledge that. And he's also saying, like, if there is something that I would bring through, it is to love yourself. Yeah, to love yourself. And like, I'm having like a conversation with him in a way. In the background, I'm sort of saying, okay, thank you, Toth. Like we hear this a lot. Like, what does this mean? And he's saying the vibration. He's saying, you don't know what it means. This is why we keep saying it. You don't really understand what it means to love yourself, to really, really love yourself, to see yourself, to know yourself, to treasure yourself, to nurture yourself, to be yourself's best friend, to be yourself's best buddy. And no, it is not the only way through. You don't have to love yourself in order to have good relationships. You don't have to love yourself 100% to have good relationships. That also comes with relationship. So yes, it can be a trap. And this is a bit like I'm having this background conversation with him, which is why some of the information is coming through. And he's saying, he's saying like the vibration of love, opening your heart to yourself is going to support you in everything you do, including opening to your multidimensional self, including discovering these aspects of yourself, including opening your mysteries. It is the key, it's the absolute key to mastery and embodiment on the Earth star. And it is where it's what you're all searching for. You're all searching to be loved. Yeah, to be seen and heard.
I resonate with that 1000%. So thank you to To for sharing that message. And this whole journey of spirituality, and it started off with my career, right? And I feel like there's very distinct paths we go on, whether it's like searching for validation through your career or searching for a purpose in life and or searching for love in relationship. The journey always leads back to love.
It does, and it always leads back to self.
Yes.
I used to kind of my sense was that we were all searching for ourselves. Like whatever we think we're looking for, really we're looking for ourselves. And at some point in a spiritual journey, I think we discover that our self is inside, and the relationship with ourself is really the key to everything else. And then once we've got that sussed enough, life unfolds, synchronicity unfolds, we find our path, we know what we're doing, we have clarity, we move from one thing to the other. And it's because we're listening to ourselves. We have this deep relationship with our own self enough, just enough. We're never going to, perfection is a beautiful thing, and we don't have to be perfect to be able to have this unfold. Just enough to move forward on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And that is also why, winding back to creativity, why creativity is such a soul nurturing activity, because we're channeling ourselves. We're having a deep relationship to ourselves through the process. Yeah, yeah. I started my journey in theatre, so also a great one for that.
I guess like was it musical theater or what kind of theater did you do?
It was spontaneity. So
Oh,
I trained in spontaneity and then I taught spontaneity and I did all the things that you do in theatre in a small country.
I love that so much. I feel home when I speak to another creative because I think for so long, like growing up in a very traditional Asian household, creativity wasn't valued as much as like mathematics and science and like, like having a traditional, more masculine role versus like having a creative career path. And so this year, when they were like guiding me back towards creativity, I had to like redefine my relationship to like the inner artist. And it was very deep because when you're creative, you're truly authentically who you are. Like if you create a piece of content or art or music, it's really who you are. And it hit me that I was like, oh my God, I'm very like I feel exposed, right? Like as an artist, being able to put out a painting or a drawing and showing that to people, that's like I drew it with my own two hands. Like you can't make that up. You can't copy that from AI. And that leaves you very vulnerable. And so I went through that whole process of deepening more into like the inner artist, which led me to the inner child too. That feeling of safety, of being seen, being heard, and being loved.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Toth is also 100% with you, and I'm 100% with you. That's a divine genius process, really, to move through all of that. Um, and yes, I know I went through a very similar process. And it is a very vulnerable place. But anything creative is we are being our authentic self. It's not possible not to be. And it doesn't matter whether it's technically good or not. What matters is it's flowed through you and it's an expression of you and that you're nurtured by it. Yeah, yeah. And in a very similar way, I mean, I'm not sure whether this is a good thing to highlight or not, but I am highlighting it, is that in a very similar way with the spontaneity and theatre work that I did really in my 20s and early 30s, part of that work was very much accessing the inner child and the inner child being the expression through a modality called clown, authentic clown, and accessing that aspect of the self to really kind of integrate it and expand it because, and you're right, it is about seen and heard and being loved. And that aspect of the self, those younger years, those early years, we do often shut down vital aspects of our life force in order to kind of fit in. And so those creative pursuits, like I experienced through theatre and you've experienced through your art, it does enable an opening of some of what might have been shut down in childhood because the child is naturally creative. They're naturally vibrant. They're naturally curious and explorative. So, and it is vulnerable. Yeah. Thank you for that piece.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know you shared in your bio with me that you do have grown children. Did you see that, or did you experience a different way of nurturing your children than your experience growing up? Or I guess like how did you nurture their creativity, right? And that would resonate with how do we nurture ours now?
Okay, beautiful. Okay, I love the way you wound into that question. I mean, I was passionate about art as well. I fell in love with art in my late teenage years, I think, when I saw some really beautiful art. And to answer your question, I think that it's kind of like this is a huge topic. So the first piece I would say is to all parents out there, if you've got younger children, I know that I started my journey as like I want to do like a really beautiful job with my children and I want to do things differently than my parents in some ways, and I want to do things the same and all the things. And now I have adult children, I can look back and go, yeah, I ticked a few boxes and some I didn't. So just to put that out there on the platform. In terms of creativity, my mother was very creative, and my father was very sensitive. And very intuitive, very shut down, but very sensitive and very intuitive. And my mother was very radical, so she was on the leading wave of whatever was happening at the time. So I had a really amazing role model in terms of being on the leading wave and not being frightened, and exploring consciousness in all sorts of different ways. In terms of parenting my children, in terms of creativity, because I was passionate about drawing and passionate about, I did a diploma in child mental health, postgraduate diploma in child mental health, so I was really interested in child development. And kind of the early research, and there's I think way more now, shows that supporting children to do creative play is really supports them in emotionally with emotional intelligence. It also supports them intellectually. So I was very focused on providing a really supportive and nourishing environment that could both contain them and nurture them and enable them to do their own creative play. Yeah, I had lots of crayons and paper available all the time and paints available, which my children did pick up. My youngest daughter has, yeah, followed that path. And I had lots of natural materials, so simple toys, um, kind of wooden blocks, cloth dolls, fabric, kind of structures that they could create houses out of that were very simple. Um, yeah. So I have a real passion for that. And I also made sure the place was tidy so that, they could create in a safe and peaceful environment as much as I could. I mean, as a mother, you can't be perfectly tidy. It's not possible unless you're superwoman, which some mothers are. I mean, hats off to the ones that are, because there are. And get nourished, get support for yourself so that you don't burn out. So I don't know, that's a bit of a download on to answer your question. It is one of those things that I've always had a passion for and continue to do so.
Yes. Oh, I love that the conversation opened up to creativity. And that's what I've been guided to share more of now is how can adults, right, nurture our inner child through imaginative play. And even by engaging with our imagination, we are healing. And I've seen this with myself personally as well, that my mind is very creative. It will guide me through a whole series, like a fairy tale, to heal something. But it's fun. It's almost like I don't remember having this experience when I was younger, and having almost like a flashback to the past of this is how children think. Like our imagination is wild, even if we didn't have the materials we would use materials that we had at home to build what we had in the unseen realm into the physical. And it resonates very much with how we talk about manifestation and working with energy in reality now, and how we bring the unseen, what we feel in the etheric, into our body, into our physical embodiment. And we start playing and we start creating. And that's how we start really creating the reality that we want, is we're actually having fun and making it happen.
Yeah, I love how you've wound it back to that because as you're speaking and I'm kind of reflecting on what I spoke about in terms of, kind of some of my passions, and I was definitely guided. I mean, nothing I've done has not been guided, I don't think. Um, the what's happening in that manifestation process is exactly that. We are fueling our kind of essential self, our higher self, our creative mind, and working with the higher planes of consciousness. And I feel like there's so much coming through around this because when you're supporting children in, for example, creative play, because there's lots of other ways they can play. And I'm saying that because I don't want people to get hung up on kind of a particular kind of thing. But what's happening is the child themselves is multidimensional. And the most important piece is that they are allowed to be themselves. So they're allowed to keep that open. And when, as an adult, it might have been shut down, the piece that I feel like you're talking about is that, like, clear your environment. Have a space that is really just nurturing for you in order to create in. Now, yes, some people creating love to create with lots of things around, and that's perfect. So, whatever it is that nourishes you, and then what I can see is happening is that on a multidimensional level, you're creating in the higher planes at the same time. And that process speeds up the manifestation process because as you're open to the download of information that you're getting through the creative act, you're accessing it from these multidimensional spaces. You're also, the multidimensional spaces, in essence, are doing the work at the same time. So there is this extraordinary collapsing of time in the process of this, what we call the manifestation process. And what you're also naming is that part of that dimensional space that we're accessing is this imagination, or what we call the imagination, which in essence is the field of Akasha. It's where we are creating from in every moment. And we're simply picking up what's really ours to pick up, because we don't want to pick up everything in Akasha. We just want to pick up the pieces that are ours. And so switching on this creative fire is that kind of way of downloading this. Yeah. So I love what you're talking about, and I feel like it's a field that is relatively untalked about, relatively untapped in terms of connecting creativity and spirituality and manifestation and multidimensionality. It feels like there's all these like pieces of a puzzle that you're bringing together.
I just got goosebumps because what you said about, right? We like in quantum physics, we talk about how energy moves, and there's a lot of discussions about reaching higher states of consciousness and elevating our frequency to reach those levels where we can work in the multidimensional with the energy. But the way that you word it is so beautiful and so concise about how play and imagination is exactly that, right? Because we're tapped into the frequencies of joy, and those are higher frequencies. And then being able to collapse that in the quantum realm and then bringing that through, like in our embodiment of the frequency. And then our reality naturally shifts to match that. So being able to merge the two in scientific and then in a more creative flow, it's like, wow, oh my goodness, you just made something really click.
Beautiful. I'm so pleased.
Would Toth like to share with us like a transmission for the group to help support them in their expansion and journey to, I guess, more embodiment of who they are?
Sure, he would love to, and I would love to channel him. So what I'm going to do is I will go for maybe 10 minutes. So inviting you to receive, just to simply receive, but also and participate. So this kind of relaxed, awakened state. Shanatitika akene tiarana ashanata akene to support any shifts or transformation and to support me to come through. Ashaka akene titia ake akene titiarana aktio. So this is primarily Toth, and there are many other beings of light that are here to support you in this journey. As we've spoken about much, some of the highlights have been multidimensionality, creativity, the inner child, na titita akene titia rana ashika akene tie, self-love, and the authentic self or the authentic presence. So we're calling in these kind of aspects of the conversation to create a multidimensional chamber of love. Tina atataka akene tia, for each of you to rest in. Shina titaka akene titiaka akene tia, as we support you to open to more of your multidimensional self. Shinata akene titi akene titiaka akene tia, calling in your higher self, your guides who are working with you, na ashika akene tia, to co-create this with Toth, myself, and other beings of light. Na asaka akene tia, that aligned multidimensional temple or chamber, Shinata akene tia, for you to rest in and simply receive na ashika ake in this point in the transmission. Shinataka akene tita akene titia rana ashika akene tia. What you are receiving are codes of light and love that come from the higher dimensions. Shinata akene tia, that are aligned for you to receive in this moment. Titiki akene tia, that also connect to the conversation that has been had by Naashika Ake, Nikki, and Catherine and us. Imarama uma taya shinata ki titika akene tita akene titia aranata akene tia. Shinata akenetia, ia akenetia. The light language and the energy is is potent and very precise. Shinata akenetia, it is like you are each calling in a very precise energy, na ashika akenetia, to work with a Shinata ake, an element of your being, na ashika akenetia, that is calling out for more codes of multidimensionality, more codes of self-love, more codes of creativity, and more codes of self-embodiment of the divine or the cosmic self. Shinata Akenetia Akenetia, as this is a cosmic summit, Naasata Akenetia, we offer those for who it is aligned and for who wish to receive. Naashika Ake, simply say in your mind's eye the number 3 if you wish to receive. Shinata Akenetia, this access point to the cosmos, to a cosmic dimension in which you are most resonant to receive in this moment. Naashikata Akenetia, Shika Akenetia. Sometimes it is aligned to journey to these cosmic dimensions, and other times it's simply aligned for the dimension to open and for you to receive from the dimension. In this now moment, we are supporting an opening of that dimension for you to experience it from this place in your Earth star reality. Shinata Akene Titia Aka, if you're adept at channeling, if you're adept at traveling, Shinata Ake, you may like to travel there, Naashika Ake, but primarily we're encouraging you to become aware of this dimension, Shinata Akene Tia Ake, and to stay present in this reality. To keep your prime awareness here as you become aware of the dimension that's opening for you. For some of you, it is happening quickly, and for others of you, it's a little bit slower. And this is aligned. Naasa titaka ake, titaka akene, titia akene, tita akene, tita ake. Your guides are supporting you. Ta akene, tia. And then there's a softening of the energy. So the softening of the energy is as this dimension opens with the vibration of love. This is why we've talked about the vibration of love, of self-love, as being essential. For it is the key to greater mastery of these dimensional frequencies, of opening to them and receiving from them to support you in the flow of your life. We invite you in your mind's eye, Naashika Tita Akinetia, if there's anything that you wish to receive for in particular, to name it within your mind's eye. Shinata Akinetia, and then inviting a gentle download of any frequency, Naashika Akene Tiara Naaka Akene Tio, soul aspects, Naasika Akene Tio, to help you incarnate more of who you truly are onto the Earth star dimension. For incarnation is a process, Naasika Ake, of embodying your full self and experiencing that on the Earth star. Shinata Akene Ti Ake, and it comes with that beautiful vibration of love, of being seen and heard. Na Shikaiti Tia Kanetia. So move in a little bit of silence while that continues to open and to download for each of you. You're continuing for another minute in the silence. And simply receive. And as you're receiving, inviting your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental body to be informed by the frequency or the information that you are receiving. To bring through frequencies to support you to integrate that which you have received. Shanata Kiarananaye. Shakayama Atai Iameti Tiranane. As we bring through these integration frequencies, we invite you, some of you are circling the stars, so we invite you to return your awareness. So Metatron is stepping forward to support any of you who have journeyed. You may have your own way back, but he's also available to support you back into this, bring your awareness back into this dimension, and to return with anything that is aligned to return to. And to return Atiti Aka Ake fully into your body. Na titika akaneti, and to be welcomed home in your body, na ashika akaneti, also by the loving embrace of Mother Earth. And to know that you are 100% safe on the Earth Star. That it's okay to be here. And you always have these other dimensional frequencies at your fingertips to connect to. And it's 100% safe to be present here in this reality, in your physical body, in your temple, your divine temple. And you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. And as you open to the divine field of love, of creativity, of soul journey, of a deep relationship with your truth, you're open to a full experience of life on earth, an incarnated experience. For you've all chosen to be here. You are all children of the divine. And you're all seen and loved and heard by the divine. And inviting you to see, to love, to know yourself. Ashanatiti ane tita ake nashanataye. For those of you who have kept your awareness present in this reality and open to these multidimensional spaces, we invite you to bring your awareness fully back into this dimension, knowing that these dimensions are always accessible for you. And if you wish to journey further, Ashanata ake netio, follow the path of your heart. Ta'ake netio, open the treasures along the way. And do so in joy and in relationship with yourself and those that you meet on your path. We love you, we see you, we know you. With much love and light and delight, we complete. As you're ready, inviting you to bring your consciousness back into this container where we're having a conversation.
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was beautiful. And I felt so much of that creative essence come through. Like, be more creative. Like,
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah.
wow, it was so beautiful to have you share with us your energy, your wisdom, and the wisdom of Toth and all your guides to really commemorate our time together. Are there any final words that you would like to share with us?
Mm. I think my final word is like it's to your listeners is to be guided by your heart, and know that you know you're on a path, and that path is opening for you. And then the other piece I would say is thank you for having me. Really, really enjoyed the conversation. I felt like it went into areas that don't often get to talk about, and really juicy and interesting. Thank you.
And would you like to share your free gift with the audience so they can connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So I have to bring it up. Um,
I have here
mm,
the Heart Center Path Activation.
yes, that's right. Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing it up is that once I've channeled, everything goes out of my mind. So yeah. So yes, it's a heart center path activation. It's in two parts. So the first part is 35 minutes and the second part is 15 minutes. The first part really brings through, I've been working a bit with, well, for a few years now with crystalline energies. And those crystalline energies come through as colors. So I'm channeling so what's been channeled is a crystalline energies to activate the heart space. And part of that process allows you to gain greater clarity um, in your soul's purpose or divine mission. So that's the first piece. It's quite long, like 35 minutes is quite long, and it is primarily an activation using crystalline frequencies. The second part is a guided meditation to support you to kind of meet and receive from your future self, meet and receive from ancient wisdom keepers to support you to gain greater clarity on your soul purpose. Or you can calibrate it or use it, you can dedicate it to whatever it is that you feel that you would like to dedicate it to. Yeah, it's quite a full experience and potent. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your generosity in sharing this beautiful gift with us. And if anyone's interested in connecting with you, do you have a website in which they can connect with you at?
Yeah. So my website is Catherine sorry, my website is divinetemple.net. So the website's divinetemple.net. And if listeners or folks would like to connect with me, you can go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, or email me. And you can also just email me directly. And my email address is catherine@divinetemple.net. And there's a few kind of free downloads on that website and a bi-monthly frequency update. So you can even just check it out and enjoy what's there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Catherine, for being on the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I will have all of Catherine's information in the description below. With that said, I look forward to seeing everybody in the next episode.